Okidoki. Pluto is a new anime that comes from the mind of Monster's Naoki Urasawa, a murder mystery based on the works of Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy. You see this little guy? That's Astro. I'm a real boy now, huh? It's an honest-to-God masterpiece, spending the 8 1-hour-long episodes exploring numerous themes centered around robots, wars, and what it means to be human. But there's one particular idea that especially stood out to me. The fact that robots are cursed with perfect memory. I'm sure you, as a human being, or at least that's what you say you are familiar with the idea of forgetting. Our squishy little heads are made to focus on important details like where you live and which manga panels that go hard, to the point that everything that is deemed unnecessary just kind of slips away from you. We aren't made to remember every excruciating detail of our lives, more so segments of what we need to live a normal life, cutting out the fluff so we don't get overwhelmed by the amount of information stored in our brains. But what if you did remember everything? What if you could rewind to a perfect recording of your life whenever you wanted? Wouldn't that just be an amazing superpower? Well, that's the reality for all robots in Pluto. Their superior AI brains store every second of their day-to-day, ready to be accessed whenever necessary. They must have it pretty good, right? They're never going to forget where they left their phone, they don't need to study for any exams. Man, don't you wish you were a robot? Anyway, meet North number 2, a robot butler to the great composer Paul Duncan. North is actually a war veteran, having fought in the 39th Central Asian conflict, his cloaked body hiding various weapons designed to rip you to shreds. Don't worry though, international robot laws prevent any robot from killing humans, so these weapons can only be used on other robots. Duncan, a bit of a robot cynic, even asks North number 2 how many robots he's killed in the war. Don't fudge the numbers, we all know your perfect memory allows you to remember the exact amount. Every single body, every single life you helped lay to waste, every single time you stared into the glassy, mechanical eyes of those lifeless bodies, snuffed out because of you. You're probably familiar with PTSD, shell shock, Vietnam flashbacks, whatever you want to call it. A traumatic event that scars you forever, inducing nightmares and flashbacks that force you to remember those horrible moments. You hear a lot about it in regards to war veterans in our world, where loud noises trigger the memory of artillery raining down from above. Robots don't exactly work the same way we do. Human emotions like happiness and sadness aren't part of their programming. But the great thing about brains is their ability to learn. Pluto shows numerous examples of robots imitating human behavior like eating food or forming relationships, all in the hopes to learn how to be more like us. So imagine eliminating tens to hundreds to thousands of your own brethren and being able to perfectly remember each and every one. What emotion are you learning here? How does this affect you as a person? It's not a nightmare or a flashback, it's just a memory that is always there. I like to imagine that remembering for robots works similar to how humans remember, in that they don't always have full control over it. If you say, hey, remember that time we went out for drinks? It automatically pulls up that memory of you slamming back vodka shots. If you participate in the murder of tens of thousands, well...
その記憶を、何万人もの仲間を殺した記憶を、私の人工知能がリピートするのです。
What a terrifying way to live. Constantly reliving how much blood or oil you have on your hands, never being able to shut out the sins you have committed. Except, there is a way for robots to forget. Just like how they can store everything like a computer, they're also able to delete memories whenever they want. Maybe that's the solution to this eternal curse, just delete every bad memory so you can always be happy. Amazing, we've figured it out. Being a robot isn't so bad. That is, if you're okay with forgetting something forever. There's a small part in the first episode where a robot police officer is killed in the line of duty. Our detective, Gijito, Sorry, I forgot to mention we have two main characters, Atom, the original Japanese name for Astro Boy, and Gajito, the detective tasked to solve the murder mystery of Pluto. Anyway, our detective Gajito visits the wife of the dead robot to deliver the unfortunate news. It's a pretty poignant scene with the wife reminiscing about a human family she works for, who had recently lost a dog that their son had grown up with. I like to imagine this is her once again imitating what she's seen from humans to help her process the loss of her husband. During her grief, Gajito asks if it would help if he erased a portion of her memory data, and she simply responds with, I'm sure we've all had that moment where we have finished a truly incredible anime and wished to ourselves, if only we could forget that we had ever watched the show, just so that we could experience it again for the first time. I've had that same thought as well, but I've always applied an extra condition to that wish. After I finished rewatching the anime, I no longer want to forget the first time I watched it. I think the idea of permanently deleting a memory from your mind is absolutely terrifying. An experience that probably changed you deeply as a person, stripped away from you as you're reset back to a previous version of yourself. I think that's why North Number 2 doesn't decide to delete the memories of the war. It's not that he doesn't want to, it's that he can't. It's such a big part of him that deleting it would turn him into a completely different person, unrecognizable to the North Number 2 that we know. We do actually get an example of what happens when a robot has their memories deleted because of something traumatic, which actually is a massive spoiler for Pluto, so I won't bring it up, simply because it only reaffirms what I've already said about not wanting to let go of something painful because it means something to you, and that it would change who you are drastically. Let's shift gears slightly. There's this video I remember watching ages ago about never forgetting anything that brings up something I find really interesting.
Hyperthymesia can also feel pretty isolating. Some with the condition have even described it like they were fluent in a language no one else spoke, or that it felt like everyone else had amnesia compared to them. These feelings could be intensified for someone who never forgot anything. It makes sense, since you'd be able to remember so many things that your friends couldn't.
The reason I remember this is because I noticed a certain detail about the world of Pluto. To the best of my knowledge, there is no instance of a human and a robot being in a romantic relationship. Gajito and Helena? Robots. Brando and his wife? Robots. The couples that took part in the robot adoption system? Also robots. But why is that? Well, imagine you get into a fight with your partner. Imagine a partner if you've never had one. Maybe you accidentally forgot your anniversary or something. After you make up and hug it out, your partner might hold on to this memory and use it against you. Every time you're in an argument, they bring up that one mistake you made, never letting you live it down. Now, imagine your partner remembers every single time you've made a mistake in front of them. It's a silly example, obviously not all people hold grudges like a goddamn sociopath, but I'm sure you can imagine there's a lot of potential for friction where one half of the relationship can remember everything and the other half cannot. It might be similar to the people in that YouTube video, that constant disconnect like you're speaking an entirely different language from your partner. You could explain this away by saying robots in Pluto don't have reproductive organs. I found this Newgrounds post that says in the world of Astro Boy, if it's not visible, it doesn't exist. Which I'm just going to take as fact because I think it's really funny that there's an entire thread debating whether Dr. Tenma really tried to make Atom a real boy or not. I think my favorite line is, you'll probably find some type of gun or missile in his pants, which is probably good enough. Anyway, you can say humans probably don't date robots because of incompatible USB ports, but in a world where one sexuality may mean sex is not a requirement, I definitely think perfect memory is another factor that could at least be a barrier between human-robot couples. We can even look at examples of parent-child relationships in Pluto, where one is a robot and the other is human. There's Epsilon, a robot pacifist who adopted a bunch of war orphans, who often gets complaints from people saying human parents should raise human children. We also have the original Astro Boy backstory, where Dr. Tenma built Atom as a replacement for his dead son Tobio, but ended up giving him away because of the fact that he's a robot. Now, these examples aren't exactly about memory. Epsilon was a victim of robot prejudice, and Dr. Tenma was upset that Atom was nothing like the original Tobio. But imagine if you had a child that remembers every word you tell them. A child that reminds you of moments you yourself have no memory of. We already have plenty of examples of human parents being unable to love their human children because of physical or mental disabilities, so I can only imagine the same would happen with robot children. Again, I'm not saying all parents hate disabilities, just the fact that this discrimination does exist. Another potential barrier stopping robots and humans from forming meaningful relationships in the world of Pluto. While perfect memory at first seems like an ability that everyone wishes they had, the idea of not being able to forget seems much more difficult than you might realize. The simple phrase of time heals all wounds suddenly feels meaningless when you're helpless to your brain replaying every painful moment you have ever experienced. The inability to truly connect with others that don't remember things the same way you do. I think this scares me much more than any murderous robot ever could. And thanks for watching. This video is just me once again compiling a bunch of thoughts I had while watching Pluto, which, by the way, you should watch if you haven't. It's like really good. It's actually my first experience with anything from Urasawa. I haven't gone around to picking out Monster, 21st Century Boys, or Billy Bat. Definitely need to get onto that. I guess it's my second time for Tezuka. I've seen Dororo, which is also really good. And I guess you could also count Atom the Beginning and the 2009 Astro Boy movie. I think I would like to see more adaptations of his work and bring more of Tezuka to a modern audience. Although, I guess there is the original anime and manga if I do get curious enough. If you're still here, I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe for more videos, check out my Discord and Patreon in the description below. Please join my Discord, I am so lonely. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a goodish day.